Sheba, Dedan, and their prophetic significance in Ezekiel. The Bible mentions Sheba and Dedan in various contexts, but their genealogical origins differ. Some are descendants of Ham, while others come from Shem's lineage. This distinction is crucial when analyzing their historical roles and their prophetic significance in Ezekiel and Isaiah. Additionally, the Battle of Gog and Magog, found in Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39, references Sheba, Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, raising questions about their modern geopolitical implications. One common issue in biblical interpretation is the presence of similar names across multiple lineages. This phenomenon occurs with Sheba and Dedan, as well as Havilah, who appears in both Ham and Shem's genealogies. The repetition of names suggests the possibility of geographical proximity, trade relationships, and intermingling between the descendants of Ham and Shem. These factors may have led to shared identities and historical overlaps, making biblical genealogy a complex area of study. Dedan, two lineages. First, Dedan, son of Raamah, from Ham's lineage. Genesis chapter 10, verse 7 lists Dedan as a descendant of Kush through Raamah. Associated with Arabian trade, the Dedanites were known for commerce and caravans, as noted in Isaiah chapter 21, verse 13. Linked to Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 13, Dedan is mentioned in the prophecy of Gog and Magog, questioning the invasion. Dedan, son of Joktan, belongs to Shem's lineage. In Genesis chapter 25, verse 3, Dedan is listed as a descendant of Abraham through Keturah. Some scholars associate this Dedan with Edomite territories. There is also a possible connection to Isaiah chapter 21, verse 13, where the prophecy against Arabian traders may reference this Dedan. Sheba appears in two lineages. First, Sheba, son of Raamah, from Ham's lineage. In Genesis chapter 10, verse 7, Sheba is listed as a descendant of Kush through Raamah. Known for trade, Sheba was famous for spices, gold, and precious goods, as mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 22. Additionally, Sheba is linked to Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 13, where it is mentioned alongside Dedan in the prophecy of Gog and Magog. The second Sheba is the son of Joktan, from Shem's lineage. In Genesis chapter 25, verse 3, Sheba is listed as a descendant of Abraham through Keturah. Some scholars believe this Sheba influenced southern Arabian kingdoms, possibly connecting to the Queen of Sheba. There is also a potential link to Isaiah chapter 60, verse 6, where Sheba is mentioned in prophecies about wealth and tribute to Israel. Sheba and Dedan in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 13, also known as Gog and Magog. Ezekiel 38:13 mentions Sheba, Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish questioning Gog's invasion. Have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hordes to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to seize much plunder? Interpretation 1. Sheba and Dedan represent Arabian nations that remain neutral or skeptical during Gog's invasion. Interpretation 2. Sheba and Dedan symbolize wealthy trading nations questioning Gog's motives. Isaiah's prophecies and their connection. Isaiah chapter 21 verse 13 mentions Dedanite caravans, possibly referring to Arabian traders. Isaiah chapter 60 verse 6 mentions Sheba bringing gold and incense, possibly linking Sheba to Arabian wealth. Isaiah chapter 66 verse 19. Some scholars speculate that Tarshish represents Western nations, possibly linking it to modern Europe. The role of Kushite trade in biblical prophecy is quite fascinating. Kush's ties to southern Arabia and India align with Sheba and Dedan's historical trade networks. If Sheba and Dedan represent Arabian trade centers, then Gog's invasion may symbolize a disruption of long-standing commerce. The merchants of Tarshish could represent European traders reacting to Gog's aggression. Hamite trade and their connection to Tyre is another interesting aspect. The Phoenicians, also known as Tyre, and the Canaanites were part of Ham's lineage, meaning they had closer familial ties to Cush than to Shem's descendants. Trade networks often favor kinship-based relationships, making Kush a logical trade partner for Tyre rather than Shem's lineage. Ezekiel chapter 27 mentions Tyre's global trade. If Kush was one of Tyre's primary partners, it could explain Kush's potential involvement in prophetic conflicts. Abraham sending Keturah's sons east, as mentioned in Genesis chapter 25, verse 6, adds another layer to this narrative. The Bible states that Abraham sent Keturah's children eastward to the country of the east. This raises the possibility that her descendants played a role in Arabian and Indian trade networks, similar to Kush. Keturah's descendants and their possible role in trade. Her sons included Midian, Yokshan, Sheba and Dedan, all of whom are associated with southern Arabia. Midianites were known for trade and caravan routes, possibly linking them to India and the Far East. This challenges the idea that Tyre's trade exclusively favored Kush, by suggesting that Shem's descendants also had a direct role in long-distance commerce. Proximity and shared trade networks. Many descendants of Ham and Shem settled in neighboring regions, particularly in Arabia and the Middle East. Ancient trade routes facilitated interaction between Kushite merchants and Semitic tribes, leading to shared naming traditions. Intermarriage and cultural exchange. Some scholars suggest that Hamite and Semitic groups may have intermarried, leading to cultural blending and similar names. Trade alliances likely contributed to this phenomenon, further complicating genealogical distinctions. Did Shem's Sheba and Dedan ever oppose Israel? Unlike Esau, Ishmael and Midian, who became rivals of Israel, Sheba and Dedan of Shem's lineage do not show explicit hostility toward Israel in biblical texts. However, Dedan's link to Edom, as mentioned in Ezekiel 25:13 and Jeremiah 49:8, suggests possible tension, as Edom was often hostile toward Israel. Most references to Sheba and Dedan depict them as trading nations, not military enemies. Unlike Midian, who fought against Israel in Judges chapters 6-8, Sheba and Dedan are not recorded as engaging in war against Israel. Conclusion. Understanding the genealogical and prophetic debate. The two Dedans and two Shebas present historical and prophetic complexities. While some scholars argue that Sheba and Dedan in Ezekiel 38:13 represent Arabian nations, others believe they symbolize wealthy trading powers, questioning Gog's invasion. Additionally, the Phoenicians, or Tyre and Canaanites, were Hamites, meaning that Kush may have had closer trade relationships with them than Shem's descendants. This family-based trade model could further explain why Sheba and Dedan, as trade hubs, question Gog's invasion in Ezekiel 38. However, another perspective suggests that Abraham sending Keturah's sons east, as stated in Genesis 25:6, may have connected Shem's descendants to the same Arabian and Far Eastern trade networks. If Keturah's sons, Midian, Yokshan, Sheba, and Dedan, were active in southern Arabia, India, and beyond, then Tyre's commercial links in Ezekiel could reflect Shemite involvement, rather than exclusively Hamite trade. One of the most debated figures in biblical history is the Queen of Sheba. While scholars and historians often associate her with ancient Ethiopia, Kush, or southern Arabia, Shemite descent, the question of her lineage remains a compelling mystery. Ethiopian tradition, particularly in Thee, asserts that the Queen of Sheba ruled over the kingdom of Aksum in ancient Ethiopia, linking her to the Kushite descendants of Ham. Biblical connections between Sheba and Kush reinforce this view, as Sheba is listed among the sons of Rama, Genesis 10:7, a Kushite ancestor. Trade networks between Kush, Arabia, and Israel further support the possibility of a Kushite queen engaging in diplomacy and commerce with King Solomon. Others argue that Sheba was a kingdom in southern Arabia, placing the Queen of Sheba within the Semitic descendants of Abraham. The Arabian kingdom of Saba is historically known for its wealth, advanced infrastructure, and extensive trade with the Near East, aligning with the biblical depiction of Sheba as a wealthy monarch who presented Solomon with lavish gifts. Additionally, Genesis 25 3 mentions Sheba among the descendants of Abraham through Keturah, further fueling the theory of a Shemite connection. If the Queen of Sheba was Cushite, her visit to Solomon may represent early diplomatic ties between Africa and Israel, shaping later interactions between the nations. If she was Shemite, her presence would reinforce Arabia's influence in biblical trade and its prophetic significance in Ezekiel's writings. Regardless of her lineage, her role as a ruler who sought wisdom and knowledge from Israel remains a crucial element in biblical and historical discussions. Both perspectives highlight ancient geopolitical and economic factors that could shape the interpretation of Ezekiel's prophecy. Whether Ezekiel's Sheba and Dedan represent Hamite traders of Kush or Shemite descendants of Keturah, their role in questioning Gog's invasion remains an essential mystery in biblical prophecy. The Book of Jubilees provides additional insight into Abraham's actions, stating in Jubilees and his sons eastward, possibly toward the mouth of Babylon, which aligns with the Persian Gulf region. While Genesis 25:6 mentions Abraham sending Keturah's sons to the east country, Jubilees elaborates on this movement, suggesting a connection to early trade networks. And he gave to Ishmael and to his sons and to the sons of Keturah gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, and he sent them to the east country. Jubilees 20:13. Historically, the Oman Empire controlled territories on both sides of the Persian Gulf, including parts of modern-day Iran and Pakistan, as well as extensive regions along the East African coastline. This geopolitical presence suggests a well-established Indian Ocean trade network connecting the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. 1. Trade routes and the ships of Tarshish. The Bible frequently mentions the ships of Tarshish, which were known for long-distance trade. These ships likely played a role in the spice trade linking Arabia, India, and Africa. The presence of Oman's maritime empire reinforces the idea that biblical trade routes may have hinted at the ancient Silk Road or the Indian Ocean trade network. 1. Biblical hints at global commerce. Ezekiel 27 describes Tyre's vast trade empire, listing goods from Arabia, Africa, and the East. Isaiah 60:6 mentions Sheba bringing gold and incense, reinforcing the idea of Arabian trade influence. The Phoenicians, known for their seafaring expertise, may have facilitated trade between Tarshish, Sheba, and Dedan, further linking biblical commerce to historical trade networks. By incorporating Jubilees 20:13 and historical trade dynamics, we see how Abraham's eastward sending may have contributed to early Middle Eastern trade networks. The Oman Empire's maritime influence, combined with biblical references to Tarshish and Sheba, suggests that the Indian Ocean trade played a significant role in shaping ancient economies.